this sounds like a conservative message. I said, what are you talking about?
Right.
She said, well, you know, the conservative message of how do you pay for things? And I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I noticed after that first debate, when you were getting Googled and everybody was going, well, who is this? Who is this? That suddenly some of the mainstream outlets, so like BuzzFeed and HuffPo and the rest of them, they were trying to link you to the alt-right and the trolls, and she's secretly being supported by conservatives and all that. Now, me and the people that are doing the online thing, it's like we see this all the time. If you step out of anything that sort of the modern left doesn't want you to do, you're automatically the bad guy. But then when I saw it going after you, I was like, see, they just do this to everybody.
I mean, it started before that, to be honest. It started the very day that I announced my candidacy for president. And it's
as if
continued
being anti-war, which is your #1 piece, as if that is conservative. I mean, that's what they're trying to sell now, which is bizarre.
A reporter asked me this question literally just yesterday after the New Hampshire Democratic Convention. She said, well, you know, she's talking about how I've made it a central focus of my campaign that we need to end these wasteful, counterproductive wars, work to end this new Cold War and arms race, and redirect our taxpayer dollars that we've wasted for so long to the tune of $6 trillion since 9/11 alone, redirect those resources back here to serve the needs of our people, to take care of the urgent concerns people have, whether it's healthcare, infrastructure, education. And her point was, well, this sounds like a conservative message. I said, what are you talking about?
Right.
She said, well, you know, the conservative message of how do you pay for things? And I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I said, I'll tell you what, Americans across this country are sick and tired of hearing from politicians and from their government that there's not enough money to make sure that kids in Flint, kids in Newark, kids in communities across this country can't have clean water to drink because the government can't make sure that that infrastructure ensures clean water.
No.
You know, they're sick and tired of hearing that, you know, levees are failing and there's massive flooding in rural Iowa that's ruining farms for their entire year of crops. And they're told, well, you know what, sorry, there's just not enough money to make sure that this infrastructure is holding to keep you and your family safe. So this is not a conservative concern. This is an American concern, and it is a call to action to change our priorities, bring about this sea change. This is why I'm running for president, to bring the leadership and the conviction to stand up to the foreign policy establishment, the military-industrial complex, bringing the experience that I have both as a soldier as well as in Congress to shift our priorities, to stop this waste and bring it back to that central focus of serving the American people.
Yeah, well, it's just such a fascinating flip that suddenly anti-war, they want to sell it as conservative. Most people are actually anti-war. I mean, I think most people don't really want to go to wars. That being said, is Trump complicating the issue for you particularly a little bit? Because Trump, at least from where I'm sitting, has not been pro-war. You may not be happy with some of the things he's doing, but you know, he wants to get us out of Afghanistan. It doesn't seem like we're going to be nation building. So that being the anti-war candidate is a little trickier, as opposed to if he was just more of a traditional Republican, maybe, or even Obama, who went into Libya or wherever else.
Right. I don't think it makes it tricky at all. Trump campaigned a lot on this message of ending stupid wars, bringing our troops home, calling out Saudi Arabia for being, one of the biggest supporters for terrorism that they are. The problem is, after he got into office, after he got elected, he chose to surround himself with the very same neocon war hawks that have been pushing for more of these counterproductive regime change wars for a very long time. People like John Bolton, people he has now, Secretary Mike Pompeo. And I think we find ourselves in the position that we're in where, in fact, Trump hasn't carried through on the promises that he made, the rhetoric that he was using during that campaign. And that's where I find so many people who are coming to our town hall saying they feel betrayed because of that, because he has not only not brought our troops home, and yes, he's working on getting our troops home from Afghanistan, and that is good for America. I wish him success in doing that. They should have come home a long time ago, but we've got more troops in Syria. He and his administration has pushed us very close to the brink of war with Iran, deploying more troops to Saudi Arabia and to the region, escalating tensions there. while even though he says on television that he doesn't want to go to war with Iran, every one of his actions has pushed us to that brink where we sit today, where just a match could light the whole thing on fire.
How do you balance the rhetoric of saying I'm against war without sort of tipping to the enemy, whoever it may be, that you're not a pushover? That seems to be one of the things that
because
it's like you take
I
a
don't,
Trump.
Yeah, because I don't say that I'm against. I mean, nobody wants war.
Yeah.
Trust me. And as a veteran, I've seen the cost of war firsthand. But I'm very specific in saying we need to end these wasteful regime change wars. We got to stop being the world's police, trying to go around the world and, pick off which dictators we don't like and, keep and prop up the authoritarian dictators that we do like, as we've seen happen throughout our country's history. End the wasteful regime change wars. Maintain our national security by having a ready and capable military, and continue to work to defeat those who threaten the United States. Continue to work to defeat terrorist threats like Al-Qaeda and like ISIS, and doing so in a smart and effective way.
Yeah. All right. So I want to do a whole bunch on all the issues. We'll just check off a whole bunch. But I got to just go backwards a little bit here. Let's just talk about what's generally happening with the DNC, because I think there's just a belief out there, whether for Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter, that the DNC just strikes people as deeply corrupt. They basically screwed over Bernie last time. There's a feeling now that even with you not being in the debate, that it's just unclear which polls are allowed to be looked at and which aren't, and how they, accumulate all of them and look at the numbers and all that. Do you think the DNC is actively working against you? Do you think it is corrupt? Do you think it is in bed with one of the other candidates or several of the other candidates? What is happening, do you think?
What's clear is that this system lacks transparency. The whole process is lacking transparency. And that's the change, and that's the reform that I'm calling for from the DNC in this. Because if they're not transparent with their process, and you pointed out some of the issues that are coming to light here is, well, these small number of polls are qualifying, these other ones are not. Why is that? Who are they actually talking to? How many people are they talking to? There are credible, accurate polls that they're choosing not to recognize, and questionable polls that they are. So the problem with all of this, and I speak as a strong Democrat, is that it creates a lack of trust in Democratic voters, that the DNC is actually working for their interest in creating a very fair and transparent process. And when you've got a lack of trust, then you've got people who wonder whether or not they should even be involved at all, whether or not they should show up to the caucuses and the primaries if the fix is already in.
Yeah, and that is sort of how it feels. I mean, even this whole thing with superdelegates that ultimately could, override what the people voted for and the rest of it. And I don't know. I know that there was a lot of turnover from 4 years ago, but I don't know that they've done the internal checks.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were frustrated with what happened in 2016 who ran for, those delegate positions to sit on the Rules Committee to try to bring about some of these changes. I've been calling for an end to superdelegates for a while now, calling for open primaries, make it so that our system and our primaries are open, transparent, and actually representative of the votes that people are casting. We're not anywhere close to where we need to be. They got rid of superdelegates just in the first ballot at the convention. But if there is a challenged ballot, as given a crowded primary, there may likely be, then in the second and any ongoing ballots, superdelegates will come into play. So
right. So ultimately, the superdelegates still could override the will of the people.
Yeah, which is the whole problem with that whole superdelegate system.
What do you make, just more broadly, about just the general process? Like when you're on stage and you had that moment that really caught fire when you were really taking Kamala Harris to task on some of the decisions she made related to criminal justice reform, and like that caught fire, and then it's like that you have to just sort of do that.
But that's the whole problem that I think with these debates is it's all about the media, their ratings, and ultimately profits. Media is money.
Is that just us, though? Like, I complain about the media all the time, too.
No.
But you don't think it's just that all of us sort of, like, when I saw that moment, I was like, that's it. That's the moment of the debate,
It's the soundbite, right?
Yeah.
But when you have the candidates who are on the stage and you're given anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds to make your case to the American people about any one of a number of really important issues that we're facing are voters really walking away with a good sense of a depth of understanding on an issue, the clear contrast between the positions that we hold? There are maybe, let's say, top 10 things you would do to reform immigration, for example. You don't get to make those points and make those differences when you've got these quick little sound bites, and the only thing making news at the end of it, the only thing people are promoting or remembering are those flash points, are those sound bites that the media promotes. And no, I don't think it's just us, because I've been hearing from folks who were seeing out in the Labor Day parades, and people were saying, gosh, you did great at the debate, but I really want to hear more, really have an in-depth conversation with candidates, allow us to be able to make our case, to share our experience, the positions we hold, the vision that we have for this country in a meaningful way. And voters aren't getting that. And you see some of them saying, I don't have time for this. I don't get anything by spending 2 hours watching that debate.
Right,
so
that's the thing.
I'll go somewhere else.
You don't feel more educated after. And that's how generally mainstream media has been treating us all.
So these debates end up being kind of a charade about this is providing a fair, transparent process for voters to become educated, but none of that's actually happening.
Yeah, well, I saw something that said that you basically won the climate change debate because you weren't in it. That was like, just by not being there, that oddly was enough. Do you think you'll be able to get back in? I mean, do you think you're going to be able to make enough noise?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Because it's not about, are we going to be able to get to where we need to in the polls? There are 27 polls that are out, credible polls that show that I've met the standards set by the DNC, but they've just chosen not to recognize most of them.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.